Welcome back, everyone, to the Crash the Pond podcast. It is a Monday, February 10th edition of the pod, and more importantly, it is the first day, I guess, of the Four Nations break for us. So no Ducks hockey for, I think, 13 days. Got any vacation plans, Jake? Or is it not really a vacation at all?
Yeah, it's not a vacation at all.
Oh, man.
It,
You're,
it's a,
you're telling me we still have to work?
we still have to work. We are still doing podcasts. We have something coming next week that is we had promised a little bit ago that would be fun. And so we are still doing things. There will still be hockey on, and
Yep.
I will still be watching hockey this week.
Yeah, I thought, it'll be nice. No Ducks games. We can kind of just sit back for a little bit. But, oh no, it's time to watch a bunch of hockey, brush up on certain players. I am excited for the Four Nations, though. It
Yes.
has fully grown on me.
Yeah.
It is here, and those Canada jerseys being as fantastic as they are really is the selling point for me.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before the show, before we went live, but noticed as we were talking a minor detail of the Sweden jerseys, because I had only done kind of the cursory view of the jerseys. The Sweden jersey, though, if you have not noticed it yet, and I know you have, but for the general listener, the striping of it, the arm stripe, has a line in it that makes it a replica of the Swedish flag.
Yeah,
It is such a minor detail, but one that is so nice overall to have those types of minor details. Honestly, I like the minor details on every jersey. I just think that the Team USA jersey is lacking. If it had a crest, it would be a much better jersey as compared to the USA that's there. Same thing with the Finland jersey. The crest is just it could be better.
Did you see the pads for the Team Canada goalies?
No.
Oh, you gotta see this. They look really good because Canada has this off-white, like vintage white color on their jerseys, and so all the goalies use that color for their pads, and it looks very good. So
Ooh, nice.
anyway, nobody wants to hear about any of this, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Best on best. It'll give us something to watch, and anyway, but
Ooh, the Aiden Hill pads are good.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But we have much bigger things to talk about today. And particularly, we have to talk about, I'm just going to say it, the red hot Anaheim Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks, who have won 3 in a row, who are 6-1 in their last 7 games. The Anaheim Ducks, who, sure, they're 9 points out, but they're in the mix. They're hovering around. They're not fully dead in the water quite yet. And so they just get a big win over the LA Kings. They get a big win over the Dallas Stars. And people are excited. People are happy. People are finally seeing the light at the end of this rebuild tunnel. The team is playing well. Young players are contributing. Trevor Zegras, highlight reel, shootout goal. Leo Carlson, shootout winner. It all feels like it's coming together. And yet, you, Jake.
Me? Just me?
You are a skeptic of this team.
I am.
And so what we're going to do today, and I think what'll be a fun exercise, is that I will be the advocate of the devil. There's a Freudian slip.
Wow.
I will be the advocate of the Ducks.
Okay.
I will advocate for this team being an improved team, for things to have meaningfully improved. And I will take that position, and I will debate you, essentially. It's not going to be like a true debate.
No.
But I think that what I've kind of come to terms with is that we have our thoughts about what this team really is, and the numbers and all of that. But at a certain point, you got to throw people a bone. The team is winning.
Sure.
No one just wants to hear this is bad. And so
Agreed.
For the people out there, I'm doing this for the people. I'm going to be the advocate of the Ducks and by proxy the devil. But I will be the advocate of the Ducks, and we will see where this goes. So I'm going to start off with some stats.
Okay.
Because I think that these stats are very telling.
For anyone out there, by the way, Felix gave me no prep on what to expect for this. He said he had an interesting format for me. So I don't have any prep or numbers in front of me. I'm going to have to shoot from the hip to really respond to this. So this will be fun.
So this is my opening salvo, and I think that this really speaks to a lot of things. The Ducks are on pace for 80 points, 80-ish points. This is a 21-point improvement over last season. They have a 6-1-1 record in their last 8 home games. So they are cleaning up on home ice. They have 39 goals from players aged 22 or younger, which is third in the NHL. And just as a little treat, they are number 1 in the 21 and under NHL prospects ranking for the Hockey News and Future Watch. So the future is looking bright. The team is winning. They're on pace for 80 points. How is this not an improvement? How can you sit here and say that this is not good? I'm shocked.
So on the very surface level, you're correct. They have made that improvement. They are looking to make an improvement from the points perspective. They are making that jump. The issue overall, and this is where kind of the things that we have brought up in the past, is that the underlying metrics don't really agree with that overall. They show that the team has taken a step back from their own zone perspective. Yes, they've improved a little bit lately, but they are worse off in their own zone. They are a little bit worse, maybe slightly better. They're kind of in the similar range offensively that they were last year, which is still not great, but they've taken a big step back defensively. The biggest change overall this season is if you look at their goaltending this season, they are currently at, as I'm doing this the math right now, they're currently at a total of about 40, roughly, goals saved above expected. Do you want to know what their goals saved above expected last season was on the season? And granted, that was over 82 games. This is over however many games, 50 some odd games they've played now. Do you want to know how many goals saved above expected they were over the course of the entire season last season?
What is it?
3.79.
Dang.
That, to me, just tells you the whole story right there about, well, yes, Skadoosh brings up, the goaltender is certainly part of the team. No denying that. But I think when you are looking at it from the perspective of the rebuild of how is this team going to be good, I don't think you can reasonably expect your goaltenders to be 40 goals saved above expected. Like, realistically, 40 save goal on average, I think it's like 3 goals equates to a win. So that's about 13 wins right there. That's 26 points. You said what? They're on pace for 21 more points?
Yep.
So realistically, if they were playing the same way they were last year, getting the same goaltending, they should be getting 26 more points than they had last year. So you could even argue they are underperforming what they did last season. The main difference is they just are getting insane goaltending.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
You say goaltending. I say, sure, goaltending's part of the team. And the Ducks have been, for most of the season, the worst 5-on-5 team or the second to worst 5-on-5 team in the NHL.
Correct.
But in this recent stretch of play, they are getting closer and closer to middle of the pack. In the last 7 games, they are at a 47.9 expected goals for percentage. Mm-hmm. Their defensive play is legitimately improving. Yes. And so, yes, you can say that goaltending is the thing that's driving the entire ship. But this team is playing better, and it's not just smoke and mirrors. There is a path that is being forged here towards a solid defensive team. Does that not matter to you?
I think there is a path that's happening. I think there are certainly games within this. I think overall the question ends up being, what are you buying more? Are you buying this 7-game sample, or are you buying the 8-9 game sample before that? Are you buying the 9-10 game sample before that? So should you be buying that small sample of 7 games, which, while yes, certainly it's fun, and I think people understandably want to enjoy it. But I think that if you are trying to do the long-term assessment of this team, which is what we generally try to do here, We try to not get caught up too much into singular game situations. We try not to look too much into the quick little trends to see who's hot, who's not. Try to look at the long-term situations. I think looking at the full season is the way to go. And so that's, I think, the thing here. I think there certainly are positives that can be taken away. And I think that was my biggest criticism of the 4 or 5 streak and how they were just so on board with how they were playing. They were playing absolutely horrible over that stretch. And the fact that there was buy-in to what they were doing when it wasn't great was not exactly what you want to see there. I think against Dallas, there are some good takeaways. I think Montreal, there are some good takeaways. Seattle, same thing. Nashville, I think they hit them on the counter. Sure, they allowed that. Like, Nashville is one of those interesting games where the numbers don't look great, but in hindsight, looking at that game, that's one where I think you can live with it a bit more, because even though they did allow a ton of chances against, this team really needs to start generating more offensively. And so it's almost like, while I don't disagree with what you're saying that defensively they've been better, I feel like this team needs to start giving up some defensive chances to generate more offense, to really let their young guys roam free. And I think one of the issues we're seeing in this last little stretch is that they're putting almost shackles on some of the younger guys in some ways, and really trying to lock it down defensively. And I think overall, when I look at this stretch and I look at the team and the thought process behind this team, I think nothing becomes more apparent to me with my frustration of how this has been and how do I word this the best? Nothing kind of really exemplifies my frustration as much as kind of the over-reliance on Trouba and Dumoulin at end of games. And I know this is kind of now going to a completely different tangent from where you were at there, but it is this idea of, to kind of go to your point about the defense, it's this idea that you have to have a veteran, older player out there. And this very antiquated old point of view that these kind of more stable veteran players are going to help prevent goals against, when in reality they are out there. Their goals against per 60 as a pairing is one of the worst on the team, not even looking at expected goals, just purely goals against. And so I think that I would be able to live with kind of the way this is going, be excited about the progress we're seeing if the younger guys were being part of that. And the issue right now, I think, is that they aren't, at least on the defensive side, besides Jackson Lacombe, they're in some ways being spurned by the way that Greg Cronin is coaching the team.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Right now, in this last stretch, the Ducks, just purely looking at expected goals against, so this is a defensive stat, they are 15th expected goals against per 60. And their number, 2.58, is basically right in this big cluster with the Capitals, the Panthers, the Stars, the Wild. They're a little bit better at 2.51, but they are playing sound defensive hockey. And when you look at the trajectory of this season for the Ducks, they started off as a awful defensive team. Awful. Yeah. And being awful defensively does hinder you offensively. And so when you think about a rebuilding team, there is an arc to it, and they had a big problem. They are now correcting that. I mean, they are working towards becoming. Right now, they're just a solid defensive team. They're about average, and so
I know.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Okay.
I let you talk for 5 minutes. Let me finish. They worked to get to this point. And so now you have to correct the things that you are bad at. Now let's see what the next 10 to 20 games bring. Maybe then you start seeing the offense. Like, it could just be a matter of, hey, there was this big problem, things weren't working, they're being corrected, and now maybe they flourish offensively.
Okay, peeling back the curtain slightly, and removing your devil's advocate on this. Do you think that's actually the case here?
No, you have to respond. No,
but I want to get your honest opinion on this one.
The point of this exercise is for you to knock down these takes.
But I'm curious for your actual opinion on that.
So here's the thing. They were bad defensively. They are now improving defensively.
Correct.
And I think that when you're a bad rebuilding team, you can't necessarily have it all at once. You can't necessarily just wave a wand and everything gets better. Greg
Sure.
Cronin, Greg Cronin is Greg Cronin. He is not going to coach this team to be a rush team. He has said that. That is not me making that up. He is not going to coach them in a way that makes them a high-flying offensive team.
Sure.
So this may be just kind of the best that you can get, which is that they're going to be better at the thing that they're trying to do. And eventually that's going to lead to more zone time. That's going to probably lead to some more turnovers created. So yes, it's a slow process that for you is not satisfying, but things are trending in things are legitimately trending in the right direction.
Yes, I don't disagree that defensively things are trending in the better direction. I think the issue is that I'm curious to see it play out over a larger sample first off. Because first off, 7-game sample is relatively small overall. And so you want to see that continue. I think that's step one here. Because they've had an up and down defensive season where we have seen them have a good stretch of 5 to 6 games, and then they get absolutely torched defensively. So is this a situation of playing the Seattles, the Calgarys, the Montreals, the Nashville, the Pittsburgh? Like, is this just a sampling bias of playing teams that maybe aren't as great at 5-on-5 in this? And so I want to see this play out because Dallas, they played well. LA, they played well for 2 periods. The third period was the exact opposite of what you're saying. It was them getting pinned in their own zone.
And that'll happen. That'll happen.
For an entire period,
that's a great team. The Kings are like tiers above the Ducks.
I don't disagree, but I think that getting stuck in your own zone is the exact issue that they're having here. And so I think that if they are going to be continually stuck in their own zone, regardless of the team that they're playing against, that is not conducive to this team having development. And so that is the biggest thing here is they need to not get caught in their own zone as much and caught defending as much. And when they do transition to offense, and this is the other piece of this puzzle here, is that they are stuck playing this style that just does not work for them. And they're stuck playing a system that it's funny. If you look at Corey Schneider's data, he manually tracks the data. I think it's like 11 or 12 games that he has for the Ducks. So small sample size, to be clear, just like what we're talking about here. But the Ducks are a team that forecheck a lot, but do not win pucks back very much. They pressure a lot, but they don't actually recover pucks very much. And so this kind of goes back to the idea that this team gets caught in their own zone, and they're doing better now, but they still get caught in their own zone more than they should be. When they get out of their zone and when they do actually get into the offensive zone and generate offense, they're caught trying to play a way that does not work with the players that are there. And so all of this kind of comes back to over the stretch. Okay, are we seeing something that they're pressuring pucks and winning pucks back more than they were before? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think realistically what we've seen over the stretch to go back to kind of your thought of, are we seeing this team improve? Yes, we are. I think that that's a fair statement. But I think in large part, that is not the reason they are winning these games. They are winning these games largely due to playing against goaltenders like Philip Grubauer, UC Saros, who granted is a great goalie, but having a really rough season. Playing against some goalies that are having a rough time. Sam Montembeault is one of those that's having a rough time. And on the flip side of that, getting just stellar, insane goaltending on their own side. Against Dallas, having Lucas Dostal just absolutely go off. Against LA, having John Gibson absolutely go off. Like, I think you can both say that they're improving while also still being critical of the way that they're playing and saying that this is not something that should necessarily be bought into as this team turning a corner, especially when there is the methodology behind it is not the methodology that the team should be having.
So here's the thing that's interesting. You brought up the tracking data. The Ducks are better pretty much across the board in all that data. Like if you look at offense, rush chances, cross-ice passes, controlled zone entries, they are better in almost every category this season.
So there was something about that. I forgot what I was looking at with that. But the rush chances, it was interesting in the sense of, I think they... What was it? I think it was that they got like less chances overall, or there was something specific about that I'll look it up right now. But yes, I think that they are overall, but they're playing. The interesting thing is that the system is not meant for that. That is kind of the point of this, is that when you look at that data, they are a team that in totality are not a rush team. Like Greg Cronin has even said that he does not want them to be a rush team, but he has acknowledged that they do generate more offense from the rush. And so it just really does not align with his vision for this team. And I think that that is in some ways the frustration here, is that they aren't winning these games due to the way that Cronin wants this team to play, right? This is not the team suddenly learning how to play Cronin hockey and buying in and doing things the way that he wants them to do. And that's creating this offensive juggernaut and defensive juggernaut. I think it's just largely percentage based, to go back to it.
So I think that if you watch the Dallas game, there were stretches there where they were legitimately shutting down the Stars. They were all over them. They were bodying them off the puck. Leo Carlson had a great hit on Jamie Benn. They are separating people from the puck. They are just kind of taking away time and space. And to Greg Cronin's credit, that is what he wants them to do. And they are doing it better now than they have been for the entirety of the season. And that brings me to this point. And I think that as the advocate for the Ducks, I think that this needs to be said, because this is not a popular take. But sure, maybe they're not winning in the ideal fashion. That could be true. That could be true. But winning, these players experiencing winning, these young players experiencing winning, experiencing what it feels like to be in a close game, to be in a tight game in LA or against a great Dallas team where you're having to survive, having to find a way. That is a positive thing for these players' development. And yes, it's not perfect, but there is an argument that they will look back at this as being kind of a formative stage for their careers and even for this team's development, that they kind of needed to go through this to get to where they want to go. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. But real quick, sorry, before I get to that, I opened it up and found it. Rush offense is down from last season. Cycle and forecheck offense is up over the season. So even though, yes, they are creating chances and things like that off the rush, their overall offense from the rush is down from last season to this season. And so I think that, to me, that is the sign here of this is a team that's attempting to play the way Greg Cronin wants, but they are not necessarily creating dangerous chances there, with the fact that their expected goal metrics from an offensive perspective are still not great. So that was where I was going with that. All right, back to your question. Sorry. So I think there is a way that to add nuance to just as compared to just saying no. I think there's a way that it can be positive. I think that if there is, and this is the key thing, we're not in the room, and so we don't know what the message that's being put out there. But if there is at least the message that, all right, you look at that LA game, right? If the message is delivered that, hey, we played a good 2 periods there, that third period was not good enough. We got some bounces and we had some fantastic goaltending, and that helped us win that game. Then sure, I don't mind that, because I think that you don't take, and I've said this before back in the 4 or 5 stretch, you don't lose the points. Like, the points are, you won the points, you got those points, you got all of that there. But if the message is that's what it takes to win, and that's how you win games, then the message is not a good one that's being delivered. What is being reinforced is bad habits win games. And at the end of the day, there was a quote, and I would need to find it, but it was specifically about the Buffalo Sabres. And that, are they a team that's actually turning the corner, or are they just winning enough games where the GM and coaching staff can buy in enough, so but they actually aren't there? It was something along those lines. And to me, that's kind of where the Ducks are with this, is that, sure, this could be a useful thing for these players. But if this reinforces those bad habits, if this gets buy-in from the coaching staff into the way that not from the coaching staff, buy-in from the general manager with the way they're playing, buy-in from, sure, the coaching staff also, then this isn't a like long-term solution for them. This is just reinforcing those bad habits and makes the players think that this is how you have to play to win games. That you have to completely turtle in the third period. That you don't go out there and try to win a game. You sit back and defend for 20 minutes there in a tie game in the third period. And so that to me is the main issue here, is that if you want to remove all of these numbers, right? Remove everything. Remove the expected goal numbers, remove all that different type of stuff. I think if you just look at the way that they're playing, in almost every single game that they are in a third period in the third period, they get outplayed, outchanced, out all this different type of stuff. And that gets reinforced as being the way that you win games because they've just had great goaltending to survive, and they get a lucky break going for them on the counter. And so from the short-term perspective, yes, it could be useful for these players. But I think if you're looking at it long-term and the message that's getting relayed is that this is a good thing, I think that's harmful long-term.
So the Ducks are playing their best hockey of the season right now. I think that is just a fact. They are playing the best that they've played.
I disagree.
Okay. When have they played better than this?
I think they played better than this in the stretch up to Thanksgiving.
Okay. But they're playing some of their best hockey of the season. I think that is just true. This is the best they've been defensively for a sustained period now. They are
probably outside of that stretch that I said, but that the bar is low, but sure.
Yeah, but right now they're about like middle of the pack. Like it's not like they went from 31st to 22nd or something. Like they went from 31st to 15th. That is pretty noteworthy.
Over the seven game sample, right? Because
yes,
I think over the last 10, I think they're like 25th or 26th or something.
No, I think anyway, the point is that they are getting better. It's a slow, messy process. I think that you're seeing better hockey from certain young players. And yes, maybe it's frustrating that Dumoulin and Trouba are getting
By
these
the way,
late.
Really quick here, because Skadoosh found the quote that I was searching for. It was winning just enough games to accomplish two things. Tanking their lottery odds, which first off, I actually personally don't care about the lottery at this point or the draft. And the other part of this is, and convincing their front office to take the path of least resistance and stay the course.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
You have to win games at a certain point. Like you can't just you can't just be a perennial loser.
Agreed.
And so right now the Ducks are winning games. It is not perfect by any stretch, but there are things that are tangibly improving. They are getting contributions from their young players. Is it the most ideal way that they're doing it? No, but at a certain point you have to win games. And I think that I could see Pat Verbeek watching this right now and thinking, you know what? I see the issues. We're relying on our goalie tremendously, but I'm glad that these players are at least feeling this. And in the offseason, we'll address this stuff.
So
we'll improve the roster. That is in play here.
Let me address that real quick, because if he came out and said that, I would be completely on board with your point there.
Okay.
I think my concern here is that there's buying in of this isn't just goaltending. Because I think peeling back the curtain and removing your view of this, right? You and I both agree that this improvement is largely goaltending based. If it was not for the Ducks goaltending, they would be in the position with the Sharks right now. Right?
Go on.
And so if the general manager believes that the way that this team has played throughout the course of the season is reflective in their standings and the 20-point jump that they have had, and it is not simply goaltending, then that would be a major issue from the long-term viewpoint of this team. If he is able to make that statement that you said and says, hey, I'm happy we're winning these games. I understand that it's largely goaltending based, but like you said, we'll fix the issues that we're seeing in the offseason. We'll reassess things, all that different type of stuff. Great. Win all these games down the stretch then. As long as I have that reassurance that there is not a buy-in to this, that this is how the Ducks view the way to win, then I'm good.
Because there has been murmurs. There have been murmurs. Scott Niedermayer had a quote saying, "Well,
Correct.
you can look at any stat and blah blah, but the fact is that we're winning more games." And the broadcast is saying something similar. You could see that two ways. You could see that and say, "Oh, that's the front office getting their message out," or it could be just, I mean, the team is winning.
Lip service, yeah.
They're just trying to kind of like
Sure.
drum up a little bit of enthusiasm for this team. And so I have a hard time believing that Pat Verbeek
I hope
would,
so.
would watch these games and think, oh, yes, this is exactly the way we need to play. I think that from a development standpoint, it's okay. There are aspects of this that I really like. I like that the players are kind of clamping down and feeling that pressure of a late game. But at the same time, we want to be the team that's ahead by more. We want to be the team that's kind of driving the play. It's hard to envision them just fully being completely enamored and awestruck with everything that's going on. This is an incremental step in the right direction. Like that.
So-
That's all it can be.
Let me ask you this, Felix. With these younger players, do you think Pat Verbeek would want them to go to the gym a bit more?
Of course.
So
Get strong.
If you want to be just like the young players on this team that Pat Verbeek is telling to go put some muscle on, you should check out alphaprogression.com. And so this is a fantastic app where they have no BS training for muscle growth. Alpha Progression is go-to app for anyone training to maximize muscle gain. They're focused 100% on that, and it's science-based and developed by serious lifters with personal training and competitive bodybuilding backgrounds. And one of the cool things, I have the app on my phone right now. I'll share it on the screen. You can pick your different goals for whatever you want. So whether you're someone that's looking to max out your strength gains, whether you're looking to have muscle gain, whether you're someone that's more so looking to play hockey and want more strength endurance, they'll build different workouts for you. If you're going to a commercial gym, you can put in what type of commercial gym, what there is, what there isn't. If you're like me and you have a home gym, you can select all the different things that you have. And then you also can select the different amount of days that you want to work out, and it builds a workout for you. And it has built a workout for me with 2 of the days being full body, 1 day being upper body. And so that for a 3-day workout plan, because that's the most I can get with having a 2.5-year-old at home. But this app, though, is a rising star in the fitness scene. The app has been recognized twice as App of the Day by Apple, and they are by far the top-rated fitness app in Germany and have recently started expanding to reach users worldwide. And most users all their users love the UI and constantly tell them how easy it is to use, even though it's packed with features, making it the ideal tool for both novices and seasoned lifters. And one of the cool things also with it, when you set up your account, it asks you kind of how long you've been lifting and tells you like what they're thinking about from a experience perspective with a number of years. And that will impact what type of lifts they end up giving to you. And their plans are generated from scratch and according to the user's need, like what muscles they want to focus on and what equipment they have. There are over 1,000 trillion input combinations. Quality-wise, their plans measure up to the best personal trainers in the world. They had a coach who charges $500 a month tell them that their app follows exactly the same principles. And they also allow for strength progression. So strength training is all about progression. Their algorithm analyzes past performances and gives a recommendation for weight and reps every set. This guarantees long-term success. So if you want to check it out, the pro version is $12.99 US per month or $79.99 per year with a 2-week free trial. And customers can get 20% off their first payment using the link alphaprogression.com/CTP, like Crash the Pond. Once again, you can get 20% off your first payment. So whether that is doing the monthly payment at $12.99 or the annual payment at $79.99, you get 20% off that using the link alphaprogression.com/CTP.
Go check them out. Get swole.
Like that transition there?
Yeah, that was great. So we have gone through that exercise.
Oh, thank God.
And I have presented all the arguments that
thank
can
God, we're
possibly
done.
be made. Well, I think
like
that people
No,
people just don't want to hear this team is awful for another hour
No,
and a half.
I agree completely that was a very wonderful and good idea from you. I commend you for coming up with that. I also hated it completely. Because I know the thing for me with this podcast, for everyone out there, I think the fun thing for me is to bounce ideas off of Felix. And I come up with stuff, bounce it off him, and we kind of go back and forth and are able to fine tune some things. It is not fun for me when I'm having to debate you on stuff that I know you don't believe.
Well, okay. So after having to argue for the Ducks for the last 30 minutes, this is kind of where I stand.
Let's hear it.
I think like this is my now I've been fired by the Ducks. I'm no longer advocating for them. They decided I did a shitty job of debating you, so I'm fired.
Pat Verbeek told you needed to go to the gym more.
Yeah, I got told that I'm just, I got to get stronger and, whatever, enjoy the minor leagues, I guess. But here's how I view it. I think that there's like multiple ways to look at this. I do think that there is something to be said for these guys are at least enjoying winning. Like there's just like a joy element of being in close games and winning. And like, that is something that is not like that we shouldn't just hand wave away. I do think that the numbers are just the numbers. They have improved. Like they have improved defensively. Like you cannot take that away from them. That is not goaltending driven. Their play is improving. Will it stay that way? We don't know, but we have to give them credit. Now, the flip side is that the concerns that I've had about this season and about this team are still all there. Like I still don't really view this style of hockey as the one that's going to get them there. They're still getting outplayed. They're still relying far too heavily on their goaltending. They're still not really amplifying their guys offensively. So, like, we're still kind of at square one, but certain things have improved, and I think that those are at least worth acknowledging.
How much of that do you think is who they've played?
I don't know, because the game against, like, I was actually really impressed against the Stars. Like, they had stretches against the Stars where they were shutting them down.
Agreed.
Like, and the thing is, the Stars are not a good defensive team. Having watched them like 3 times now in the last week, like they're just not a good. But offensively, they still have a lot of talent, and the Ducks took all of their ice away for prolonged periods.
It's a weird matchup for whatever reason. I feel like the Ducks play the Stars really well. I feel like every single game where it's like, even earlier this year, that was the game where the Ducks felt like they had the puck for the entirety of the game. It's a weird matchup where the Ducks just play well, but you're right.
Like they played really well, and then like I think that if you kind of look up and down the lineup, like Jackson Lacombe is turning into an offensive star.
Agreed.
On the back end, and I feel like if we're going to criticize this team for not developing its young players well enough, we should at least give them credit, because Lacombe has completely, he's completely broken out as an offensive defenseman this season. And that is worth pointing out.
Was it the Dallas game where he had the little spin move off the faceoff dot, drove to the net and almost scored? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he just does something spectacular every single game. It's really a sight to see. And, Zellweger has been back in the lineup mostly because Radko Gudas has been hurt, but he's been playing. Pavel Mintyukov has been playing. They're not playing a ton. They're playing about 15-ish minutes, but they're in the lineup. They're getting the reps. Drew Hellison is kind of a mainstay. You can debate whether that's a good thing or not, but he is getting his reps. So I think that the blue line, especially once Dumoulin gets traded, like I'm a little less concerned about that than I was.
Now that you bring that up, this is, I think, going back to what we were talking about before the ad break there. Mm-hmm. And while you were still in your mode of being working for the Ducks there, I think what's really going to be telling, right, is Verbeek buying this, right? Is Verbeek buying the way this team is playing? Is he picking up what Greg Cronin is selling here? Does he think this team's playing well, or does he understand it's just goaltending? Is going to be this deadline. Because I think if he is someone that is buying into what this team is, and we believe what Scott Niedermayer is saying, we believe what the broadcast is saying, I don't think he moves Brian Dumoulin.
I just don't. I still have a hard time believing that.
But that's my point, is that I think he gets moved. But I think if that is going to be a telltale sign, though, if he is not moved, then that is a major issue in terms of the thought process.
I agree. I agree that if they were not to move him, that would be very odd. But I have a hard time believing that that's what ends up happening. Like Brian Dumoulin probably wants to be traded. This is just not. It's very difficult for me to fathom that. Another thing that I wanted to point out, which kind of struck me the other day, was that I know that he's not part of the kids anymore. He's just not. But Troy Terry is having a very good season.
He is.
And I feel like that kind of like almost doesn't count anymore because he's just baked into the pie. But the fact that the Ducks have this player on what's going to be a very team-friendly deal, he's tracking at a 65-point pace, playing with Frank Vetrano and Ryan Strome and with a bad power play. The fact that he is still this good and that he kind of projects to be as good as he is for the next 3 to 4 years, I mean, that's a huge deal for the Ducks as they kind of figure out Carlson, as they figure out Zegras and McTavish and Gauthier. Like, having Troy Terry there as a mainstay is huge. Now, I wish that Troy Terry was playing with those kids instead of being tied up with Vetrano and Strome, but that is a positive. That is a positive that I feel like we've just kind of forgotten about because...
Well, that to me is, I feel like the ultimate issue with this team for me is I feel like there is just a lot of juice left in the bottle. I don't think that's a saying. I was gonna say money on the table a saying?
Money on the meat on the bone? Is
meat
that
on the there? Sure, we'll go with that. Yeah. I'm tired here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of meat on the bone for this team that's not being fully used. Like,
yeah.
I think that there are just better ways this team can be utilized from a setup perspective. Like, I think the concept, right, that people are having out there that this team can't, and like you even said, this team has to win games. This is not a team that should be looking at the lottery anymore. And that's even why when I looked at that quote about the Sabres, to me, you can throw the lottery portion out of this conversation. Because to me, it doesn't matter. Like, the lottery portion of this conversation doesn't matter regardless of where the Ducks were here. I think that winning games is better long-term for this team. But I do think that there is the element of it should be done the right way. And I think that if you had a coach that was setting up this team in a better position, think about where they could be. I mean, first off, just from the perspective of they have goaltenders that are putting up 40 goals saved above expected.
I mean, they're basically wasting this season that they're getting from Dostal.
If they were just a slightly below average team,
they'd be in the playoffs.
They would be in the playoffs. Like, they don't even have to be a good team. They could be the Rangers.
Wow. That's gonna hurt some people.
No, but seriously, like, if the Ducks were just like an average 5-on-5 team, they would be the New York Rangers of the last couple of years. Maybe not President's Trophy standard, but still, like,
I mean, they are 9 points out, and the teams that are ahead of them, I genuinely just don't think have that much better rosters than they do. The Blues, the Hockey Club, and the Flames, those are teams that they could be in that mix. And so that's the thing, is that yes, things are better. Are going well. They're winning games, and it's fun, and it's good vibes, and all of that. And I think that people should enjoy that. Winning games is hard. Whether you're lucky or not, winning games is hard, and they are doing it. And, I mean, I almost said the F word there, but for God's sake, this team has been crap for almost the entirety of the time we've been doing this podcast since 2017. So a little feel-good vibe for like a month. Just lay into it, folks. Enjoy it.
Let me ask you.
But just to finish that thought, like, my own personal view of the team hasn't really changed because I don't see anything on the ice that's like, oh, things are really headed towards something new and kind of like meaningfully different.
So I had looked at this. This was pre the Kings game. So here are some numbers on the season for the Ducks versus the last 10 games prior to the Kings game. On the season at 5-on-5, 2.32 expected goals for per 60. That puts them at 25th. 3.09 expected goals against per 60. That puts them last in the league. 2.19 goals for per 60 versus the 2.32 expected. So 25th there. So they're pretty close to expected from a goals for perspective. 2.43 goals against per 60 versus 3.09. And then, so here's the last 10 from that. 2.33 expected goals for per 60. So about the same from a offense perspective. Defense, they have taken a step down in a good way. They're at 2.77 versus 3.09. So there is improvement there, and that's kind of what you were getting at. From the offensive perspective, though, from the actual goals going in, 2.73 goals for per 60 versus it was at 2.19 for the season and 2.3 expected. 2.37 goals against per 60 versus the for the actual goals against. So the biggest change here is, while yes, they have improved defensively, the actual goals against are about the same over the stretch versus before. And the biggest change is the pucks going in for them, like from a results perspective, if you want to put it that way. And
I think I do think though that like it's hard to just flip every switch right away. Like
well,
if you give this team another 10 games, having now maybe solidified their defensive game, the offense may come.
And that was what I was going to ask you right now, because one of the biggest things is looking at kind of where the shots are coming from versus total quality of shots, things like that. It seems like their offensive game has taken a slight step back to improve their defensive game. With where this team is at, do you think that that was the right way to take it? Or would it have been better to just say, screw it, let's open it up and play a rush style?
The thing is, though, we don't know if that's the case. We don't know if they are making this conscious choice to defend better and at the cost of offense. Like, that is maybe just the product of
that's fair.
How these games have gone. Like,
that's a fair point.
I don't know if this is this grand strategy. I think that what's just hurting this team right now, and this is going to be an unpopular take, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think that they just, oh man, this is really going to upset, and I may be wrong. I don't think they have an offensive line that's really going right now. I think that the Carlson, Zegras, Killorn line has some flashes here and there, but I mean, I'm just going to say it until something changes. But Zegras is not a wing. He doesn't look as good at the wing. Leo Carlson's a little lost right now. A little lost. Doesn't quite understand fully yet what he has to do, which is fine. He's young. Alex Killorn is Alex Killorn. Then you have the Strome line with Terry, which Terry's still great, but that line hasn't really done a whole lot. And then you have the McTavish line. And it's like, none of those lines are really, I would say, driving play. They're getting points, but they're not really driving the play consistently. And I mean, the combinations just should be different. This is a fixable issue. If Zegras is back at center, if McTavish was back on Carlson's wing, like there's a way to get this offense into a higher gear. But the way that the lines are set up right now, none of them are going, and the way they're set up is kind of hindering their ability to get going. So, yeah, that's my take on the offense. I don't think that the offense is bad because they're defending well. I just think that the offense is poorly set up. I feel like their offensive game only goes as well as the combinations are. Like, it just doesn't feel like they ever really do anything different offensively. They just have better pieces together. Like, the best offensive stretches we've seen this season have just been when the lines have made the most sense.
Well, and that just kind of goes to kind of what I had said with when you look at some of the more track data, that this is a team that tries to forecheck, but they don't actually win pucks back.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that you don't have a style that really elevates whatever player, and you don't have the right combos. So you're really reliant on just the mix being right, and it hasn't been. But anyway, we've kind of gone around it. Should we? Yeah.
Let's get to questions.
Should we get into questions? Anything else that has stuck out to you that you want to touch on?
Anything else that stuck out to me?
Shootout goals.
The Zegras shootout goal was absolutely ridiculous. The Carlson one was also very good. John
Is
Gibson.
Is it bad? I kind of preferred the Carlson one.
Yes, the Zegras one was better, but
because
sure.
it was. I just love the simplicity. I love that, just that simple move that just completely fakes out the goalie.
I have not listened to 32 Thoughts, but didn't he mention John Gibson?
He did, but it was a nothing burger.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just wake me up when anything happens there.
Yeah. Gibson's fantastic, though. He's playing fantastic. Dostal's playing fantastic. They are the backbone of this team for the most part. So
Olin
that's it.
Zellweger has also looked good getting back into the lineup. I think that he's actually
yeah.
brought some offense to his game. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and the Trouba Dumoulin thing needs to stop.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
it just does. It's bad.
It doesn't work.
Like that's the thing is like you look at like any sort of like removing expected goals. Just look at goals against. Like they are one of the worst pairings from the Ducks from a goals against per 60 perspective. And so it's like why is this a thing? It just feels very Randy Carlyle.
I've reached a point where I don't know. I can't even really get that worked up. Like this team is kind of is what it is. Let's just see it play out. And
Let me ask you one final question before we
I'm
get
fatigued.
to questions.
I'm fatigued going into the break is what I am.
Let me ask you one final question before we get to actual questions from people and not me. Will this winning be a net negative if this means that Greg Cronin is back next year?
It depends. Because the roster could just really improve going into next season.
But do you think that it still is a net negative, though?
I personally don't think Greg Cronin should be back. And so if this is the thing that gets him a job, then this kind of turns more into a negative than a positive. But it's hard to say because even if he's back next season, I think that the team will just be better on paper. And the younger players are just going to be older and ready to take a step forward. So, like, I'm not saying I'm pro Cronin coming back, but I could see a scenario where Cronin is back next season and the team is also still better regardless.
Yeah.
Which is maybe an unthinkable take. But I do think that as these guys get older, we're seeing it with Jackson Lacombe. Like, as these guys get older, I think the impact of like suboptimal coaching is going to go down because it's like at a certain point, the talent just becomes undeniable.
That's where I think it even could be more of a net negative that you have a coach that is potentially not using them to their potential. You put a new coach in. And I mean, there also could be the perspective of maybe that forces the hand a bit more. Maybe the goaltending is not going to be otherworldly.
I mean, like the goaltending could take a huge nosedive next season.
Like, it is crazy. I did not realize last year how they were versus this year until we did that.
This is the best season John Gibson's had in like since this is his best season since Randy Carlyle.
Is this the best season the Ducks have ever had from a goaltending perspective?
Well, that I can't answer, but
at least in the analytics era.
In the time we've been doing this podcast, which is 2017, I think this is the best goalie tandem they've had. I mean, actually I don't know because in 17-18 and 18-19, Gibson and Miller were really good. Miller was a really good backup, but he was like a true backup. This is a tandem.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it from years perspective. 17, 18, 15 and 20. I mean, they're outpacing that right now if they continue this. Like,
yeah, no, they've been great.
Ryan Miller 15 and 24. 15 and 32. I was selling John Gibson short in 17-18. So I think 17-18 is a good shout for probably the highest that they've been. Yeah, I was curious going back even further how they would look.
But the thing is, in 17-18, Ryan Miller was 37 and he only played 28 games.
Yeah.
He only started 21 games.
Red O'Bara played 5 games for the Ducks that year.
We've been through hell.
And was okay.
I mean, Ryan Miller
2.16.
Ryan Miller was legit great until like the wheels he played until he was 40. Are we ever going to I guess Fleury just retired and he's going to retire and he's 40. How many more 40-year-old goalies are we going to see? I feel like it's almost impossible now with the way that
probably
injuries are so prevalent. Like,
I mean, it may happen more as goalies are now having goalies aren't playing as much as they did.
That's fair. Man, Ryan Miller, can you guess his career high in games played in a season?
65.
76. He played 76 games.
Skadoosh says quick is like 39.
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying is we have this generation of goalies that was able to play late into their careers, and I feel like he played 60 plus games. He he basically played 60 plus games like 5 seasons in a row. There was one season of 59.
Yeah,
Like he
that
was
makes
a
sense.
he was a workhorse.
That checks out.
Ryan Miller's
All right.
underrated.
All right, questions?
Sure.
All right, here we go. So we're going to start with our Patreon exclusive Discord. Go to patreon.com/crashthepond. So Salani Sandwich said, question for the next pod. With the upcoming trade deadline looming, if you were GM for the day, what would you do with the forward group? What skills is the team lacking and or depth in certain positions? And who would you move or trade to shore up those areas? Move Robbie Fabry.
Yeah.
Just get him off the team.
Future considerations.
Get him off this forward group. What else would you do from a forward perspective?
Like trade wise?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to trade Vetrano. He just signed a contract.
Strome popped up in the...
yeah, why is Strome on the trade board for Chris... Was it Chris Johnston?
Yeah, very weird.
Very random.
Very out of the blue also.
I can't fathom him getting traded for some reason.
I can't either, which is why... But also, like, that thought makes it feel more real that he's on there, if that makes any sense.
Well, he just seems like such a leader on the team, and he's so integrated, and I don't know. I don't really buy it. But
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not like that. There's not something out there, but that is just hard to buy. I mean, I think the thing you do is you just get rid of Robbie Fabry because he's the guy that you can move. You can't really do much with the other guys, and just call up Sam Colangelo. Hell, give Sasha Passageva a cameo.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just won. Was it AHL Player of the Month?
Yep.
Forward of the Month, something. So,
like, I think realistically, in terms of what is this team lacking or depth in positions, I think they have it in their system.
They have most of the pieces. The pieces just need to be ordered the right way.
Yeah. Plantward said, I'm certainly no fan of Cronin, just based on the things he said and how he said it. I also don't think we should look into 4-game winning streak too much, but one could argue things are improving. What do you think the second half of the season would need to look like for you to believe in Cronin again?
Well, it's kind of funny. I feel like I beat some of these questions to the punch with the first half of the pod. But I think that the thing that would make me more optimistic about Cronin is that basically what I was saying earlier. It's like, okay, now that the defensive game is starting to improve, let's see that maintain. But also, now let's see the offense have its turn. And if they start playing a more dynamic offensive game, if there's just a little bit more of an emphasis now that Cronin is maybe trusting the guys more, then I would be like, okay, he was hiding the ball the entire time. Now he's letting them play because he trusts them. I would be like, okay, I take it all back to a degree.
I would agree. No,
and honestly, I don't necessarily think that's that far out of the question.
It's not that far-fetched if he just made the proper adjustments to this team.
Well, sure, but even just, I agree with that. But let's say that he's not going to do that because I don't think he will. I think that there is a possibility that he's going to see the defensive improvement and be like, okay, I'm going to tolerate a little bit more risk. There's certain things that maybe before I would have benched you for, and now.
Do you think that's more willing to happen down the stretch? Like, I think he's more willing to not do that down the stretch.
It depends. It just depends on how this team trends. I mean,
I think that Kings game for me is just, and I know this question said to believe in Cronin again, and now I'm kind of getting into the negative side of it. But that Kings game for me just kind of showed my main concern for this team, which is that they could play a decent 2 periods, find a way to get chances, but at the end of the day, he's gonna pull them back and pull the horses back in a tight game, in a tight situation.
We do need to acknowledge though that the Kings are a vastly better team.
Sure.
But that is a mismatch.
But the Kings were also on the back end of a back-to-back, and in the third period looked like the team.
I agree. Team. I'm not saying it was good, but I am saying that there is a disparity there in terms of quality of team.
Sure. But to believe in Cronin again, I think, I think continuing this defensive play and finding a way to start generating more actual offensive chances and continual offensive chances, and not having it be a situation where they're getting a couple of flurries here and there, but nothing too much overall.
Yeah.
Shaken Wings asked, best trade in Ducks history.
Ooh.
I got one off the top of my head right away.
Is it the Silverberg trade?
No, it is not.
Kessler?
No.
Let me guess. Kessler, Silverberg. Give me an era.
Late 2000s, early 2010s.
Oh, Pronger?
No,
Was that a trade or a signing?
that was a trade.
Niedermeyer?
That Niedermeyer was a signing. Pronger is up. Pronger is probably the actual best trade,
Okay.
but
Who
not the
is
one
it?
I was thinking of. Ryan Whitney for Lubomir Visnovsky.
Yeah, that's not the best trade ever. It's
That is
it's a great trade.
sure.
It's a great trade.
I mean,
but
to be fair, best trade in Ducks history is probably the Solani trade.
uh yes. Yes. I think that's the right take.
Like, I think that's the easy. That or Pronger are the two that are easy. I was more so just having fun by trying to come up with something.
Didn't
a
they
little
trade
different.
for Jaguar as well? Because he
Yes,
was
they
drafted
did.
by the Flames.
No, he was drafted by Hartford.
Oh, that's right. But then he went to the Flames,
He did.
and then he went to the Ducks.
Correct.
So there you go. That's
Could
another.
you say that? I think they traded for Rob Niedermeyer.
No,
I feel like they traded
don't,
for him.
Don't do that.
Could you say that trading for Rob Niedermeyer
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
is one of the best trades that they have made because it allowed them to sign Scott Niedermeyer?
I think that's a good take. Yes,
Okay.
that is a good take. There's been a
Yeah.
lot of good trades. They haven't happened. Honestly, Gauthier Drysdale could be up there when
It
it's all
could
said
be.
and done.
Yeah.
Like if Gauthier becomes like a 30 goal guy, I mean that's just a home run.
Ooh, Alex
So-
Olvera with a good one. I think it's Lonnie, but this is just other good trades. This is one that is of pure future, and the way that it panned out is amazing for the Ducks. But when the Ducks traded down with Toronto, and so Toronto could take Tyler Biggs, and the Ducks got Raquel and Gibson,
Yeah.
like
Man, I am just now seeing. I didn't actually know what the trade was for Teemu Solani.
it's like Chad Kilger, Oleg Terodosky.
A third round pick. Why did the Jets trade Teemu Solani?
I don't know. I don't remember. I was too little.
That
to
is a
fully know.
disastrous trade for
What
the.
was the full Pronger trade? Wasn't it first Ladislav Schmid, Joffrey Lupul?
It was something like that. Yeah, that sounds right. I know Lupul was in it.
I mean, Schmid was just a 4th overall pick.
Man, getting Teemu Solani for just a pile of. I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh on Oleg Tverdovsky, but
I mean, he came back also.
well, that's the hilarious thing is that they traded for Solani, then they traded him away, and then they got him back.
Oh, I meant Terodosky came back, but yes.
I know, but I'm saying for Solani, he went to the Sharks.
Yeah,
Why did they trade him to the Sharks?
I think it was a money thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was back when there was no
Nope.
salary cap. Teams were weirder with money.
They got Jeff Friesen in that deal.
Yeah,
That's pretty
who
good.
I think was garbage,
Oh,
if
never
memory
mind.
serves me right, for the Ducks. Shake and Wink said, "What conclusions, if any, can we draw if Leo Carlson plays great in the Four Nation face-off?"
If he plays great in the Four Nations face-off, I'm just going to entertain this for a second before throwing the cold water. Then that's a good thing. That's a positive.
Yes.
I mean, there's just no other way to there's no other
Yes.
take. It would be a fantastic thing. I will just caution Ducks fans to not expect Carlson to play very much. Today at their skate, he was the 13th forward, and I don't know if he's going to play more than like a game, but I would love to see him play more and take off. But yeah, careful with the expectations.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play very much.
Yeah.
Truba or BPH said, I'm just asking as a wow. People read your mind because he's saying, I'm just asking as a devil's advocate type question tonight, and we'll try to word this as the best as possible. You guys are very by the metrics people, which is fine, and have been very outspoken about how the team is doing worse aside from goaltending this season, which I also agree with. However, as a not big on Cronin fan myself, these conversations generally lead to the Ducks organization and gripes not developing the younger players properly. Do you have any similar data, such as advanced metrics, to support how players can/should be developed properly?
That is a great question. That is not where I thought that would go. No, because player development is way harder to quantify. And so, yes, that is the thing, right? Is that you could say that, oh, the way the Ducks are doing it is the right way. There isn't necessarily a model. I will say, I think that there are examples of players just kind of being given, not necessarily handed, but like being given more rope to make mistakes and to flourish offensively. And I think that in the long run, that is what improves them more, as opposed to kind of having to, go down to the third line, make a mistake, and if you do that, then you get scratched and kind of have to work your way up. I think that there's a value to just letting players play through the mistakes with limits, but allowing them to preserve those offensive instincts.
And even from the perspective of looking at the defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are Zellweger and Minchikov going to learn how to play in these high-pressure minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they play in them. And so what are you getting by necessarily having, I know I keep coming back to this, but having a Trouba Dumoulin pairing there? Like, even if they are playing well defensively, that type of thing. You're just helping yourself win games, and sure, maybe that's all Cronin is thinking about here, that's all he's going for, but that doesn't really help them long term. I mean, there's also the perspective of them watching games from the press box. Like, I don't think that that's very useful for them. And so, no, there aren't really advanced metrics for this, because development, it's very difficult, because
it's also case by case. Like,
we
players...
just don't we also don't have advanced metrics for lower level leagues.
Yes. I mean, for example, look at what the Habs did with Cole Caulfield, and Cole Caulfield's two-way game has improved tremendously, but he was a goal scorer the entire way through. He was always in the first line the entire way through. Like, they never took away the thing that made him great, but they still refined him. And I feel like the Ducks have just not cared about that with players like Zegras or Gauthier.
I mean,
they are happy to kind of take away the toys while they round out their game.
You look at the Cronin quote today about Trevor Zegras, and it just completely, I think, misidentifies Trevor Zegras, and it feels like Cronin's trying to turn him into a forechecker in some ways, and thinking that that's what's going to get his game going. And it's just
the thing is, it's like, sure, it's good that he's improving as a two-way player. I think that that's great. I think that that's necessary. But we're now reaching the point of diminishing returns, where it's like, okay, he's done it. Now there has to be a next step. Also, someone in our chat, a friend of mine, just put...
I saw that.
Jimmy Buckets over Steph. Bad take. But great trade. Anyway, you were saying. Next question.
Tussle said, why do you think Cronin isn't running 11-7 with all of the young defensemen playing?
I just don't think they really care that much that someone sits. They say they do, but their actions don't match that. So,
yeah. The Puff said, if you could, who would you want as a player in the broadcast team? Bieksa type, or even someone like Zegras for crazy takes on things?
You know who I think would be a great commentator?
Who?
Actually, I have two picks. This is from the current team. Is this cheating?
No.
Okay. I think Troy Terry would be a great commentator.
Yes, agreed.
I think Ryan Strome would be a great commentator.
Also, agreed.
So I think those two would be fun. If you want to go a little different, you could have I feel like Pavel Minchikov would just be funny. He seems to have a very ironic, sarcastic, dry sense of humor. But yeah, those would be my picks.
I'm trying to think about, because I think from the current team, yeah. I'm trying to think about from past teams.
Oh, in the past. Getzlaf.
Getzlaf, yeah.
Is that too much of a low-hanging fruit?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I'm trying to think about
Kessler.
Maybe.
Would Fowler be decent?
BX's, I think Fowler would be good. I think Bieksa would be good, but BX is also obvious with him being a broadcaster.
Yeah. Emerson Edom turned out to not be him.
Not great.
He's
not my
him.
favorite, personally. All right. Plant Merge said Z-Trade is never going away. Who are the names that you think are available that if the Ducks got them, you'd be able to stomach a Zegras trade for?
So, okay, I have a pick. Okay. Just because I had the tab still open. I think Ryan Miller would be good.
Yes.
Remember that quote he had about Milan Lucic? How he snapped, bring that energy.
Yes.
Bring that. But anyway,
stomach a Zegras trade for Elias Pettersson. For me, it would be that high-end offensive talent.
Established star player.
Yes.
Noah Dobson?
I don't think he's an established star player. I think he's a good player.
People saw that rumor and really got upset that Dobson could be available and it would make sense for the Ducks. I am pro Dobson, by the way.
I am pro Dobson. I would not be pro moving Trevor Zegras for Noah Dobson.
I have decided that the Ducks' right side on defense is actually very uncertain. And so I think bringing in Noah Dobson would really help solidify that.
Sure. I think that if you do that, you need to probably move Tristan Leno or Drew Hellison in that deal. And
Which is
potentially
fine.
move one of Gudis or...
You shouldn't even blink if that's the cost.
Or Truba. Not
And
in
I
that deal, but just...
And I like Luneau
Agreed.
and I like Hellison, but you're hoping they turn into Noah Dobson.
Fuddy said, what is the likely return from Edmonton or Carolina for Gibson? I mean, probably one of the goalies, so whether that's Frederick Anderson or for Carolina...
Skinner?
Or Skinner or Picard for Edmonton or Pickard. And then, I don't know, maybe a pick. Like, I don't think the return's going to be like this.
I don't think the Ducks are going to... they might retain a chunk.
I don't think... With how Gibson's playing, I don't think there will be retention.
Well, I just don't know Carolina and Edmonton's cap situation.
Fair.
Those are cap teams.
Yeah.
So...
I don't know. Part of me is like, I'm not sure.
I just don't care.
At the end of the day with Gibson, like, it sounds like the Ducks are really holding out for like a good return. And the thing is, they're in this position to be able to do that. So it's like, if he is traded, maybe the return's greater than what we think it will be.
A first
prospect and a goalie for money perspective.
Who would you even want from the Oilers? I'm like trying to conceptualize this.
I don't even know.
Vasily Podkolzin?
No.
I mean, he's
Carolina,
good. He's
sure.
been a good piece for them, but yeah.
On that same note, Doom Gooser said, in a hypothetical Gibson Edmonton trade, would you bring back Adam Henrique? No.
It's funny because if the Oilers had managed to hang on to Holloway and Broberg,
one of them, yeah,
those would have been the targets. But also seeing John Klingberg's name on a roster is just kind of crazy.
Yeah. All right.
So.
I'm gonna hit Blue Sky and Twitter, and then Twitch and YouTube will get to you. So this comes from the Rect on Blue Sky. Said, question about Zegras. After his rookie campaign, he looked like a sure future superstar. Players of such high skill just player of such high skill just has to be it. Yet he is not. What is that he's missing that prevents him from being at least a point per game player?
I think that there's two things that he's missing. One is just opportunity. I mean, I think that he's just not really put in the right situations to have the right opportunity. I also just think that Trevor Zegras is just not an elite skater. And that is just always going to... He's going to be more reliant on his circumstances than, let's say, a Leo Carlson or a Cutter Gauthier, who can just kind of outskate their problems. But those are probably the things. But he will get there. I still believe.
Yeah, I think so too. I hope so.
I'll take 60 at this point.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. From Twitter, Trevor Zebra said, hey, Jake, 2 questions for you guys tonight. Do you think it's likely we see somebody else with the C on their jersey tonight? Or on their jersey, not tonight, next season?
So do you think Gudis gets traded?
Correct. Or stripped of the C?
Maybe. If they do change, it'll be Jacob Trouba, so I don't really care.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, and that hurts. And second question, where do you think guys like Seneca end up next year? His opinion, but he's not ready for the NHL. He's saying he thinks the NCAA for 1 year. So actually, that's not an option because he signed his ELC.
Yeah, I was going to say that. He already has a contract, so this new kind of rule for the NCAA doesn't apply to him.
Because for those that don't know, in order to play in the NCAA, you have to be a full amateur. If you have signed your entry-level contract, you are not that.
What I think the Ducks will do is they will do what they did with Tristan Luneau, or tried to do with Tristan Luneau, is I think he's going to come up, he's going to get his games with the Ducks. I mean, this is all very dependent on how he looks, but I think he's going to come up, get his game with the Ducks. They're eventually going to send him down to the AHL. And then eventually he goes back to junior, plays in the World Juniors, and finishes the season in the OHL.
I was just getting confirmation that he's a January birthday, so yeah, he's not AHL eligible next year.
But he can play, though. He can play in the AHL on a conditioning stint.
Correct. If he is sat for it's the whatchamacallit,
Shane Wright.
The Shane Wright.
I mean, the Ducks did this with Tristan Luneau.
They could also theoretically petition Like you can.
Yeah, but I think that like this pathway is pretty established at this point. They've done it with their own player before.
Sure. Seattle petitioned though to get Shane Wright in the AHL as a 19-year-old. Like it's not this thing that you can't like go against. It just teams typically don't.
Well, I could see them wanting that because I don't know if they would want him to just play another season of just junior hockey only.
Yeah.
I think that they kind of wanted him to, because he's putting up a ton of points in the OHL. Like you got to have a little carrot to dangle for him. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Eric on Twitter also said, odds Verbeek signs a horrendous free agent deal this offseason.
50-50.
50-50. I think with the cap rising, it won't look as horrendous.
60-40.
All right. So for those of you watching this on Twitch and YouTube, please start throwing questions into the chat. But for those of you listening on your favorite podcast services, you can find us at twitch.tv/crashspawn, where if you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month. You can be just like Brandon Pineda 244, who subscribed for his 21st month. So thank you so much for that. And with that subscription, you get special emotes in the chat, special badges next to your name, and does help out more than you can imagine with Amazon Prime. It's completely free to you. Or if you don't use Twitch and you prefer YouTube, because everyone out there listening, I know you all have YouTube accounts. Our good friend Lou, who may be one of the more technologically challenged people that I have seen, has a YouTube account. He shows up in our YouTube chat every once in a while. He is in our Discord.
Shots fired.
Everyone has a YouTube account. Go to youtube.com/crashthepond, where you can like and subscribe to our videos. Please get a little like spike for this video if you're watching it right now. All right, so we got this question. Cool username.
He's in our Twitch chat.
He was in our YouTube chat, I think, earlier. Or no, that was Flo was there. Sorry.
Yeah.
But still, cool username. Okay, yeah, said, what's the ideal line for Terry paired with Zegras and Carlson or Cutter McTavish?
The ideal line for Terry? Oh,
yeah.
I would like to see him next to either Zegras or Carlson at center. And then, honestly, McTavish, Zegras, Terry, or McTavish, Carlson, Terry would be very fun. So.
Yep. All right. So let me see. Miguel Gutierrez says, what's up? Years ago was supposed to sign. He cannot sign until his KHL season is over. So
yep. Artem Galimov, for those who don't know.
Yep. Could be an interesting player. I mean, any thoughts on him? I don't think we really talked about him on the last episode.
He's putting up a bunch of points in the KHL, and that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Hardcore Luchador said, question, if the Ducks are playing well and we see flashes in a small sample size, what is the potential with this team with a different coach?
Playoffs. I mean, they have the roster for it.
Like,
look at the West this year. The West is weak.
Well,
like
the fact that
compare the wild card race in the West to the East, it's crazy. It's like night and day.
They have 13 wins just because of goaltending.
Yeah.
And they are not in the play. Like, if this team had a coach that knew how to put this team together, this team would be a playoff team this year. I think that honestly, I know a lot of the conversation around this team is that they've improved by 21 points, and a lot of people are going to be saying that's a market improvement, all this different type of stuff. That should honestly be flipped, and this may be
only 20.
That it's only that much, that it should be more. With how good the goaltending has been,
yeah,
like they should be in the playoffs right now with how good this goaltending has been. Sure, it would be a flash in the pan in some fashion, but it would be a flash in the pan that actually had something behind it, though. That is where I would say, yes, you could build on it. If this was just like an average, like if they were the 20th team in expected goal share, this is a playoff team.
Yeah. I mean, the bar is very low for where they need to be, and they haven't managed to meet that.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
All right. And want to hit some shit show questions?
Sure.
CTB Fantasy Football Champion said, could you call yourself a Ducks fan if you cheered for the Eagles? Sure.
No.
I did.
Because Cutter Gauthier was spurned by Philadelphia.
Yeah. I'm good with it.
It's disrespectful.
Tussle said, and this is more so a regular question, but does Verbeek target Marchand this offseason, the modern-day little ball of hate? And when that signing put Pat on the chopping block?
Honestly, I wouldn't hate it.
I wouldn't hate it either.
Brad Marchand's good.
Marchand's good.
Yeah.
Plant Ranch said, for Jake, where do the Lakers finish this season with Luka?
So, what are your thoughts on the didn't I ask you about this last week?
Where are the Lakers in the standings right now?
Let me check. They might not even be in the playoffs.
Can
no, they are. No, the Lakers are having a good season, actually. They're like 29 and 18. The Lakers are 5th in the conference, so they're in the playoffs.
Okay, they finished first in the conference.
No, that's impossible.
They finished first in the conference.
Is the question about this season?
Yeah.
So the Lakers are 31 and 19, and they're playing right now, so that'll change. The team in first place is 43 and 9. They're not finishing first.
If you believe
impossible.
If you believe hard enough,
they could get up to second though. The West is very they're 3 games back of second place.
All right. Before we get out of here, this is something that's just for you from Doom Gooser, or it's because of you, I guess is the better way to put it. Peanut butter or almond butter?
It's complicated. I think that good, fully or natural peanut butter, where it's literally just ground up peanuts with maybe a little salt, is great. But I think almond butter on average is better. I think it's got it's literally just more buttery. It has a more savory taste that I enjoy. It also kind of sticks in your mouth less. You don't get that mouth stick. No one likes mouth stick. So
I'm team peanut butter.
I like them both though, if I'm being completely honest.
I'm not the biggest almond butter person.
You just gotta try the right one.
I have.
Then you haven't. I mean, you haven't.
No, it's fine. Here's a question: have you ever tried sunflower butter?
I have not.
It's actually solid.
I'm not interested.
Wow.
I don't like sunflower seeds.
Okay, yeah. If you don't like sunflower seeds, then you won't like it.
They're too much work.
Yeah, no.
They're too
sunflower
much work.
butter. Sunflower butter, though.
Sunflowers are good. The seeds themselves are good, but the whole eating experience is bad.
So you would probably like sunflower butter then.
Oh, do I? I'm not gonna bring this up. There was a big debate in our Discord, but
What was the debate?
No, I'm not doing this.
I don't remember this. What was the debate?
I'm not opening up this can of worms.
What was it?
There was a debate. I'll say what it was, but I won't get into it. It was, you know what it is. You're baiting
No,
me.
I don't. I'm scrolling through the Discord just to see.
When people say that they've read a book.
Oh, that.
But they've listened to it on an audiobook.
Yeah, it counts.
Yeah, it counts as having listened to the book and having gotten all the information.
Consuming it, yes.
But you did not read it. Reading is a specific act. And
so the verb
listening
of reading,
is not listening is not reading. I'm not reading you right now. I'm listening to you.
The verb of reading, correct. The common vernacular of reading a book, no.
Here's the thing, people got really offended that I said that, which is kind of baffling because I feel like it's just, I don't know how you can get mad about that. But sure, in a conversation, if you tell me I read a book and then you drop that you actually listened to it, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, you need to change how you talk, or I'm not going to push back. I'm not crazy. But don't say, but don't sit there and say that reading and listening are the same thing. That's all. That's my own, how is that even controversial? How did anyone get ruffled over that?
The verb, yes. I would say the common usage, listening to a book is the same as reading. From that, you can say you read a book if you listen to it.
In the sense that you got the information.
Correct.
But you did not actually read it, though.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
You did not read the words on the page. Reading is something that you are not born with the ability to do. Anyone can listen. Even if they'd never learn how to read. Unless they're deaf,
trust me, you are not born with the ability to comprehend what is being said.
Yeah, but okay, sure, fine. There you go.
You
I'll
have
grant
to
that.
learn. You have to
I'll
learn
grant that. Assuming that you learn the language. Assuming that.
Oh, Brandon Pineda said his librarian wife would want to slap you. Any consumption is quote unquote reading a book.
I disagree.
Consumption, because it is helping to inform you.
So here's the thing. First off, Brandon, I support your librarian wife because
Agreed.
I have a library card. I use it. It's great. Public libraries are just like a hack.
Uplift librarians, uplift public educators.
Uplift public service people. Anyway, but I'm just going to have to push back. Any consumption is not reading. Like, is it? You put quotations on reading a book. And if by that you're trying to say it's like some kind of turn of phrase, then fine. Fine. But it is not, listening is not reading. Somehow this is offensive. Somehow this is controversial. I don't get it. It feels like a very simple, beige, milquetoast, forgettable take. And yet the world has come after me. The world has come after me. So.
All right.
That's that.
We going to get on out of here?
Quick blind ranking.
Okay.
You owe us one.
I do?
You owe us one.
Okay.
Yeah, last week's bit was a bit of a flop, so we have to make up for it. Yeah, Brandon's still going, but I'm gonna have to sidestep. Sorry, I'm sidestepping you. Okay, blind rank NBA players from the 2000s. So blind ranking means you're ranking something with that 1 through 5, without knowing what comes next. So first up is Paul Pierce. For those who don't know, Jake is not really a basketball fan. So
I am not.
It's funny to hear you struggle through this.
I actually don't know where Paul Pierce played college ball, though.
I don't think I could tell you either. Did he play college?
Yes, he for sure
Maybe he was
played
one of
college.
those weird high school players.
No, Kevin Garnett was the last one. He played at the University of Kansas. There we go.
Okay.
I googled that one.
Ben Wallace. Who did he play for?
He played for Detroit. Did he play for Philly also?
I don't know. I just know him as a Piston.
Yeah. I'll go 4.
Wow.
Below Paul Pierce.
Below Pi? That's probably right. It's probably right. Up next, Zach Randolph. Who did he play for?
Zach Randolph. Didn't he play for the Pelicans?
No. Close. Geographically close.
Did he play for the Clippers?
You're getting further away.
Zach Randolph. Now I'm just Googling it.
What?
Oh, Memphis.
Yeah. Okay. Where are you ranking him?
5.
5. Okay. Kyrie Irving. Who did he play for? He's still playing, by the way.
Boston, Cleveland. Not someone that probably likes me too much. 2.
2. All right. Your number 1 is Allen Iverson. This worked out pretty well.
Kyrie could go to 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Man, people are coming for me in the chat. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, everyone.
All right.
No hate, all love. Is that wrong? No hate, all love. All right. Well, thanks for listening. If you want to support the podcast, there's some really easy ways to do that. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/crashthepond. This is really the foundation, the bedrock of the podcast. It's a thriving community of fellow diehard Ducks fans. So for $2 a month, you get access to our patrons only Discord server. This is a great place to connect with other fans, to connect with us. You get to chat with us pretty much at all times of day, and it's supporting the podcast, and that's $2. You can up that pledge to $7.50 a month, and with that, you get access to 2 bonus podcasts where we kind of go broader scope. We'll talk about the rest of the NHL, but we'll also go even more deep into certain Ducks topics, also a little more unfiltered. And there's also player breakdown videos, shift-by-shift videos. So there's one right now up on Jackson Lacombe. There's one on Tristan Luneau from the goals. So go check that out, patreon.com/crashthepond. You can also leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcast. You can also leave us feedback. You can leave a comment on Spotify. I did not know this until today.
Yep, you can.
Someone left us a comment on the last pod and took a shot at me.
They did.
So if you are listening to this right now and you're hearing this on Spotify, then leave a comment. Leave a comment on Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. check out our website and check out the link to our sponsor in the show description. Help us out. And on that note, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the Four Nations. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.